safer world is possible, and together we can and will make it happen. Thank you.
When you show up in community, you find that group that makes you feel like home, but oftentimes you also find yourself again.
Every day, 24/7, in the face of what we're saying. Look, I was in that debate with Piers Morgan on that day. And the bottom line is this OFCOM's ruling totally whitewashes what has happened. Listen to me. When I say that Piers Morgan was objectively irresponsible as a broadcaster, I mean what I say. He was objectively offensive on race and mental health, especially with the way he was so dismissive of what she said in terms of her own experience. And he was deeply personal. Piers Morgan continually uses his platform. What he did that day was to use a national platform, the ITV studios, as his own personal living room,
He
to just rat out whatever
he didn't believe her.
about her.
He didn't believe her.
It was not just about him not believing her. People want to make this just about freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Freedom of speech does not come without consequence. And he's a broadcaster. He brought his personal dislike of Meghan Markle into the debate, into the words.
James, you're shaking your head.
I think it's really important to understand the arguments here, and I can understand why you might say what you say, but I don't agree with everything Piers Morgan says by any stretch of the imagination. However, to have somebody with the power that she has, that Meghan has, to be able to call up his boss and to put pressure in the way that she did, that ended up with him losing his job, is, in my view, reprehensible. And the things that she and Harry have done in particular to use their fame and celebrity to make money off the back of the royal family, which we pay for, is reprehensible.
Okay.
And so I think for Piers to be able to express himself in the way that he likes, good. He absolutely, Ofcom got it right. He's right. Well done him. Well done Ofcom. Because I'm sick and tired of not being able to say what I think about people.
Shola.
I respectfully, unequivocally reject your rewrite of history. The fact that Meghan Markle reached out to ITV, like if I was complaining, all of us reached out to ITV, a lot of people reached out to ITV or to Ofcom.
Yeah, but you couldn't you and I couldn't get through.
No, but let me put it this way. Her complaining about what he said about her is her right to do so. You're talking about freedom of speech. What he did was not just expressing what he thought about her. It's the fact that he brought his personal dislike into her.
You wouldn't have that access
and I have,
to the chief executive
with all
that she
due
has.
respect, you cannot silence Meghan from being able to complain about the impact of his words on the wider, on mental health.
I'm not complaining. I'm not saying that that's a problem.
Can we just correct this?
Yeah, well.
Piers Morgan was not fired. And Meghan Markle did not get him fired. He took his white privilege cards and walked out of the job. That's what he did.
He was put in an intolerable position.
No, he was not put in an intolerable position.
Before we move on, let's just have a look at what Ofcom actually said. So we've got the ruling here. There's a lot of fine print here. I'm going to identify just one phrase. So the particular thing they say is that broadcasters can express their views consistent with freedom of expression. And they use this phrase, let me highlight it, that if they went ahead with the complaint, it would be, and I quote, here is the phrase for you, a chilling restriction on freedom of expression. Let's have that in close up there. Now, Shola, that is a problem, isn't it, for your argument?
No, it's not a problem for my argument. It
should be.
What I'm saying, the reason why it's not a problem, it's a false foundation. It's a false foundation because the reason they came up with this and they let Piers go is that they said that there were people like me and Susanna on there who were able to give a robust defense or robust view to what he said. That should have nothing to do with the fact that his conduct was reprehensible. Listen, Piers Morgan continually uses his own power and influence to aggravate racism, bigotry, sexism, and misogyny against Meghan Markle.
And so do you,
and
that's the problem.
He has a malicious obsession against Meghan Markle.
Is this all about?
It's not just about Meghan Markle.
I don't do that. I don't have a malicious obsession over anybody. So you can't accuse me of that.
Hang on, Shola, sorry. That you're saying this comes in the end down to race. Does
No,
it?
not just to race. It's the whole thing. He's a broadcaster.
Yes.
It's not his personal living room, the Good Morning Britain studio. He brought his personal dislike of Meghan Markle into what could have been, okay, I don't
So why
believe her.
why shouldn't he?
Nobody needs him to believe it. That's not the point. But the way he spoke about mental health, the way he spoke about race,
well,
the way
all right.
he turned the whole
But
conversation to be about
disagree with him.
Queen,
Let James speak.
and I did disagree
let
with
James
him. I'm
speak.
saying the impact,
Okay,
James.
let James
so
speak.
many people
Am I allowed
who
to speak?
experience
Let James
mental
speak.
health will be impacted by what he did because that
okay.
emboldens other
All right.
people to
No.
go ahead and
James,
do it.
what about the mental health point?
The mental health point is a really important point, and I agree with it. We've got to have proper conversations. And he
You
did
agree
actually,
with me?
he did actually correct himself on the basis of what she did, but what he said, which was wrong. But my view is that it's not about it being his personal living room or anything else. I want to have a country where broadcasters and people and individuals of all different views, of all different backgrounds, are able to make their
But
point.
not without consequences. The point. Nobody
No,
said he can't.
but-
Nobody said he can't.
There is a
express his
consequence.
thought,
There are
James.
consequences. He's not
Nobody's
doing
saying
that job anymore.
And not
But
be
he
fired for
walked out of the job. Nobody fired
Well,
him.
yeah,
It wasn't
but
He was put in an
He was
intolerable
not.
he was
position.
not.
Hang on, he was
He
pushed
was
out.
not.
No, he
He
couldn't
should have
carry
sat
on
his
working.
butt down. He created the heat in the
Well, he
kitchen,
would- as I-
and he should have stuck through it if he truly had the conviction.
No, because he
of
was
his
being
cause.
forced. He was being
He
forced
was not being
to
forced to do anything.
apologise.
He
James,
left.
James, let
He
me just
left.
ask you that going back, you've conceded a very important point, which is that he was wrong to say when she said I felt suicidal. He's wrong to say I don't believe you.
He's wrong. I think that the difficulty that we've got with mental health and mental health discussions is that you do not know what's going on in somebody's brain. You don't know how they're feeling, and you certainly can't. And where I would absolutely have sympathy with Meghan is that when she joined the family, I am sure that the stuff that happened was impossibly difficult to deal with. I cannot imagine how hard it was to adjust to a life where you've had fame and celebrity, but you've had it on your terms, and then suddenly you have fame, celebrity, notoriety, and responsibility on somebody else's terms, and they're controlling every aspect of your life.
And she couldn't leave the palace.
I'm sure that was impossibly difficult, and I'm sure it played on her mental health. But the point is that subsequently, I think that Harry's behaviour, because he knows that, and her behaviour has been extraordinary. I think it's right for Piers
We're
to
talking
point it
about
out.
Piers Morgan.
Okay,
We're
all
talking
right,
about
yeah.
his conduct.
So-
We're talking about the fact that he knew, one, that she had lost a child, right? The previous summer. She was heavily pregnant at the time. Here she is sharing her own experience about being suicidal. He uses his platform to not just say, I don't believe her, which he can or can't believe her. That's not the point. The point is, he uses language that not only dismisses, but it derogates that kind of,
And
that kind of
but
experience.
you
That
may
is
find-
wrong.
James may agree with you on that point, and Ofcom did as well, because they said his words on the actual mental.
Welcome to Sussexful. I am your host, Emma. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to Sussexful for more insights and truth. Meghan Sussex versus Piers Morgan. Dr. Shola Mos-Shogbamimu calls out Ofcom's ruling, saying it whitewashes an offensive rant. They tried to silence her, but she stood strong. Bravo, Dr. Shola. You speak for everyone, black and white. Dr. Shola is correct. Piers Morgan did not lose his job because of Meghan. He lost it because he walked off his own show. The Ofcom ruling hides behind free speech. But if everyone has free speech, then what is Ofcom's real job? They said controversial opinions are fine in legitimate debate, but Piers' personal vendetta against Meghan was harassment, not debate. Supporting someone who uses their platform to hound another person exposes character. That is why Dr. Shola's voice matters. She stands firm where others stay silent. Dr. Shola Mos-Shogbamimu's response to the Ofcom ruling on the Meghan Sussex versus Piers Morgan controversy has struck a chord with many. She rightly points out that the ruling effectively whitewashes Morgan's offensive and hateful rants against Meghan, silencing important voices that dare to speak out against such behavior. Mos-Shogbamimu emphasizes that this is not just a matter of free speech, as Ofcom claimed the controversial opinions were part of a legitimate debate. Rather, she argues that Morgan's personal vendetta and blatant harassment of Meghan delegitimizes any such debate, revealing a deep-seated character flaw. The Ofcom ruling, in Mos-Shogbamimu's view, sets a dangerous precedent where public figures can freely hound and harass others without consequence, a reflection of the underlying biases and prejudices that continue to plague our society. Shola Mos-Shogbamimu defends Meghan against Piers Morgan's offensive rants. Dr. Shola Mos-Shogbamimu has firmly condemned the OFCOM ruling that exonerated Piers Morgan's offensive rants against Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. Shola has made it clear that she stands against both Piers Morgan and the decision by the regulatory body, characterizing it as a whitewashing of Morgan's hateful rhetoric. Importantly, Shola speaks up not just for the Black community, but for all people who value truth, compassion, and accountability. Her unwavering stance demonstrates a principled commitment to challenging injustice, regardless of the powerful figures involved. Piers Morgan's conduct and the misuse of free speech. Piers Morgan's relentless attacks against Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, under the guise of free speech, have effectively delegitimized the important debate around this fundamental right. By using his prominent platform to spew hateful rhetoric and personal vendettas against Meghan, Morgan has undermined the very principles of free and fair discourse that he claims to champion. His behavior demonstrates a worrying trend where individuals in positions of power weaponize free speech to target and harass others, rather than engaging in constructive, good-faith dialogue. This undermines the role of regulatory bodies like OFCOM, whose job is to ensure that controversial opinions are expressed within the bounds of legitimate debate, not as a cover for personal attacks. Ultimately, Piers Morgan's conduct towards Meghan is a reflection of his own character, and serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of misusing free speech to vilify and silence those with whom one disagrees. OFCOM's role in the Piers Morgan controversy has certainly stirred the pot, hasn't it? Their statement that controversial opinions are acceptable as part of legitimate debate raises some serious questions about the regulatory body's purpose and standards. Piers Morgan's relentless and vitriolic attacks on Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, seem to far exceed the bounds of reasonable discourse. This really calls into question OFCOM's ability to uphold its own principles. If free speech is being used as a defense for Morgan's actions, then what really is the purpose of OFCOM's oversight if it allows such hateful and personal vilification to go unchecked? The regulator's ruling appears to whitewash Morgan's offensive rants, undermining its role in ensuring responsible journalism and fair treatment of public figures. The free speech debate, a classic, isn't it? The free speech defense being used to justify Piers Morgan's behavior is, well, a flawed argument. While freedom of speech is a fundamental right, it does not mean freedom from consequences. Piers' relentless attacks on Meghan Markle crossed the line into harassment, and his reckless disregard for the impact of his words is simply unacceptable. OFCOM's ruling, in this case, seems to whitewash his offensive rhetoric under the guise of legitimate debate. But true free speech should never be used as a shield to spew hate and pursue personal vendettas. Piers' actions demonstrate a blatant disregard for the principles of responsible journalism and respectful public discourse. The public deserves better than this type of divisive and damaging behavior, even from high-profile media personalities. Piers Morgan's public hounding and harassment of Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, really speaks volumes about the character of those who support his actions. By condoning such behavior, they, align themselves with a campaign of relentless vitriol directed at a woman who has already endured immense public scrutiny and pressure. Honestly, this reflects poorly on the moral compass of Piers' supporters, as they choose to side with an individual who seems intent on perpetuating a personal vendetta rather than engaging in legitimate constructive debate. The OFCOM ruling that allowed Piers' offensive rants to continue under the guise of free speech has, unfortunately, effectively whitewashed his actions, sending a troubling message about the boundaries of acceptable discourse. True free speech should not be used as a shield for hate-filled rhetoric that serves only to demean and harass. Meghan's experience is, I think, a sobering reminder that even in the public eye, individuals deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, not subjected to the whims of those driven by personal animus. Shola's voice has been forcefully muted in the wake of the OFCOM ruling, which is, frankly, a troubling development that reeks of an attempt to suppress a vital perspective. As a prominent commentator and advocate, Shola has repeatedly spoken out against the biases and prejudices that have long plagued public discourse, particularly when it comes to the treatment of marginalized individuals like Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. By silencing Shola, those in power have struck a blow against the very principles of free speech and open dialogue that are so essential to a healthy democracy. But Shola's resolve remains unbroken, and her commitment to challenging injustice and amplifying underrepresented voices will, if anything, only grow stronger in the face of such blatant efforts at censorship. This is a battle that extends far beyond the specifics of the Piers Morgan case. It's really a struggle for the soul of our society, and one that Shola is undoubtedly poised to lead. The controversy surrounding Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, and Piers Morgan highlights broader issues of racism, accountability, and the limits of free speech. It raises crucial questions about the role of media regulators, such as OFCOM, and how they navigate the delicate balance between protecting free expression and preventing the propagation of harmful rhetoric. The OFCOM ruling, which deemed Morgan's comments about Meghan's mental health claims as not in breach of broadcasting codes, has been criticized by many as a whitewashing of the offensive and abusive nature of his rants. This decision really underscores the ongoing debate about the boundaries of acceptable discourse, particularly when it comes to public figures. It also shines a light on the complex interplay between individual liberties, media accountability, and the responsibility to safeguard vulnerable individuals from targeted harassment. Moreover, this controversy highlights the need for a more nuanced understanding of free speech. While the principle of free speech is essential, it should not serve as a blanket defense for the use of one's platform to perpetuate personal vendettas or spew hateful rhetoric. The line must be drawn where such speech crosses into the realm of delegitimizing genuine and important debates on issues of racism, mental health, and societal accountability. I wholeheartedly agree with Dr. Shola's perspective on this matter. Piers Morgan's behavior towards Meghan Sussex strikes me as a personal vendetta driven by his own poor character, rather than a legitimate debate. When someone uses the defense of free speech to publicly hound and harass another person, it reveals a great deal about their own integrity. OFCOM's ruling in this case seems to whitewash the offensive and hateful nature of Piers' rants, which is honestly deeply concerning. Dr. Shola is absolutely right to call out this injustice and to speak up for those who have been silenced. I commend her bravery and unwavering commitment to the truth, and I really hope that her voice will continue to be heard for the benefit of all. The OFCOM ruling is widely viewed as a blatant whitewashing of Piers Morgan's offensive and inflammatory conduct towards Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. In the face of such a decision, the powerful voice of Dr. Shola Mos-Shogbamimu stands as a beacon of reason and moral fortitude. Her unwavering stance against both Piers' despicable behavior and the OFCOM's failure to hold him accountable is a testament to the importance of speaking truth to power. By refusing to be silenced, Shola amplifies the concerns of all those who believe that public figures should be held to the highest standards of decency and respect, regardless of their personal vendettas or perceived free speech rights. Her voice echoes the sentiments of a society that demands accountability and refuses to accept the normalization of hatred, even when cloaked in the guise of legitimate debate.